Okay, guys, I've got a lot to get through today, and I especially want to just do a little bit of a recap. And today's session would be quite a bit different, I think, compared to what we've done so far, because it's taking a little bit of a big jump. But I think it's a very important topic, and it gives us an intro to what we are going to focus on for next term, which I'll explain as well. Okay, so any questions before we start? Maybe you guys just have some questions or clarity that you want to get on anything. I can maybe just say this will be our last meeting for the term. I am not around next week, and then it's end of term. Okay, great. Let's then go ahead. I'm going to share my screen. Okay, there we go. Okay, so guys, our whole aim this year in Dynamic Course is to answer this question, who am I? We see that's a question of identity. We started this year, term 1, with where do I come from? Term 2, why am I here? We read the book Purpose Driven Life, excellent book, and I hope you guys benefited from it. This term, we focused on where am I going? That's a question of destiny. And those two things come together with what is the purpose of my life? And then next term, we are going to do this. Oh, sorry. Is it still showing?
Yeah.
Okay. Next term, we're going to do what is right and wrong, the questions of morality. And that's why today's topic is going to link quite well, or be the link between where am I going and what is right and wrong, because these two things obviously come together into what is my potential, what will I eventually become and reach and should be. Okay, and we started our term this term by defining what success is. We had spent some time to think of a vision for our lives, a 5-year vision for our lives. We tried to understand success and described it, especially if you have the perspective that I'm a created being, there's a God behind the universe who intended my existence, then you define success as becoming everything that God has intended you to be. That must be the definition, because anything short of that means you are failing to be what you were created to be. So then you cannot be, doesn't matter what you achieve in life, you can't be successful if you do not become what God intended you to be. Okay, so just as an analogy, if God intended you to be a foot and you are an incredibly successful eye, then you are not successful, because you weren't intended to be an eye. You're intended to be a foot. Okay, so just silly but relevant analogy. A very practical definition, though, is that success is progressively realizing a worthy ideal. Now, obviously, that worthy ideal, if you are someone that believes that you are created, that worthy ideal must be set by your creator. What has he made you for? Because whatever that is worth living for, that's worth dying for. Okay. But it did mean that we started with setting goals for our lives. What do we wish to accomplish in life? And the importance of setting goals, the importance of writing down our goals, that was important because it's an external source. It puts the things that we intend to achieve outside of our mind, as well as deeper in our mind when we write it down. And studies show that that is the best way to achieve your goals. The goals should be, and then SMART, specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time-bound. We did a few exercises and intentional things to do in order to write down and to improve our goals as we write them down. Encouragement from me: write down your work through your goals regularly, every day if you can. I try to. I don't get to it every day, but I try to really get to my goals frequently, because it puts it in your mind. It helps you to be conscious of what you're trying to achieve. One of my goals was to run a 40-kilometer race. It's written down, and I'm not a race, just to run 40 kilometers. And on Saturday, and I mean, I wasn't even close to that. I think the maximum I've ever run was maybe 12 kilometers. And on Saturday, I did 40 kilometers. Ticked. Now, never before in my life have I written it down. After I wrote it down, within less than 2 months, it was accomplished. So again, just evidence that it really does work. Write down your goals, look at it frequently, and somehow opportunities will present itself for you to accomplish them. Okay, we looked at short-term goals. Two problems with most of us: when we write down our goals, we underestimate our efforts. Oh, sorry, we underestimate the effort it's going to take. We think it's going to be easy. So whatever you think it's going to take to achieve your goals, multiply it by 10, because it's much harder than you think. But the second thing is, whatever you think you can accomplish, even multiply that by 10, because you always underestimate what you are able to accomplish. Okay, so two problems with goal setting is we underestimate effort and underestimate potential. Is steps on achieving your goals is write them down, set a time frame, determine what needs to happen to accomplish them, make a little list, a checklist, develop a system to achieve it. In other words, that came down to habits, and then take actions every day. Those last three all come down to having habits that develops a system for you to accomplish the things that you intend to with your goals. In the end, it came down to, it's a massive effort. Like, you really just put in, you need to put in a massive effort. And I love that word. It really or that little phrase, it really describes what it takes to, and don't misunderstand me. It's not labor. It's not sweat of your brow type thing. It is absolutely worth it. Like, you're doing the thing that you were made to do. Obviously, can you imagine how hard your heart works? But it's what it was made for. It is pumping blood the whole time. It is, especially if you're active, it is, your heart is pumping thousands. I wonder how many heartbeats one gives in your life. But that's what it's made for. That is where it's most effective, is when it's hard at work doing what it was made to do. So even this massive effort, it's not sweat of your brow, hate to, like, getting up in the morning because it's hard work. No, it's why you get up, because this is what you're made for. It's what you're living for. Okay. Unlocking your potential is specifically changing our thinking. The biggest problem, the topic here was, the biggest thing that withholds us from achieving our potential is that we have limiting beliefs about ourselves. We think certain things about ourselves, or we don't think certain things about ourselves. Both of them could be a problem. So to unlock your potential is all about your mind. It's about is getting your mind right. And the big thing there is, man becomes what you most think about. What is important is to know that you have unlimited potential. That's the one thing. There's nothing you can think, believe, know, and strive for that you could not achieve. Like, anything is possible. The second thing is, it's only your responsibility. Like, anything is possible, but only if you take responsibility to pursue that and to make it a reality. No one is going to cause your success, whether even at school, though, it doesn't matter at what level. Your parents are not responsible for your success. Your best friends are not. You are responsible for your own achievements. Okay. And there's that law of belief, that you become what you think about most of the time. So whatever you put into your mind, that is going to manifest. And that can be even positive or negative. I was speaking to one of our teachers this morning, and she has one of her best friends that's an alcoholic, a recovering alcoholic. And she says her this friend's mother was an alcoholic, and she promised herself she was never going to be like her mom, never going to be like her mom, never going to be like her mom. So what is she feeding herself with? Don't be an alcoholic, don't be an alcoholic. So she's thinking about alcoholism the whole time. So she's filling herself rather than not becoming something when she ended up becoming, instead of becoming something positive. So that was one of the important things, is that when you set goals, let it be positive goals. Don't say, I am not going to be an alcoholic. That's a negative way of stating it. Your goals should be positive, present tense, and personal. Okay. So then we looked at identifying, empowering, and limiting beliefs, reframing our limiting beliefs. And good. And then the next topic was choosing to change. The very important part here was that is trying to identify. The principle is that obviously in pursuit of what I want to become in life, what I want to reach, what my goals, achieving these worthy ideals, it's not just going to happen. You're obviously going to run into problems that's going to hinder you from progressing. I promise you, if there's one thing that you can be sure of, this is going to happen. You are going to get to a point where you are going to struggle. Now, at that point, you need to, there's going to be a problem in the road, and you're going to have to ask yourself, okay, what needs to change? So something is hindering me from going onwards. Imagine yourself stumbling and falling. You can't go onwards. There's an obstacle in the way. What must change in order for me to overcome this? Or something needs to change. I can't just do what I always did and expect something different to result. So something needs to change. And we looked at what is the only thing that is in your power to change is change the weather. The only thing that you can change is yourself. And often that is the only thing that needs to change, getting into a different mindset. And so the incredible power is within people, is the people that achieve success in life is the ones that are different than other people. It's the people that choose to change, choose to be different, choose to go the other direction. They're the ones that find a solution when no one else can. Okay, it's when you can actually change yourself, because usually you're the problem. So there's that phrase, that quote: the opposite of courage is not cowardice. So to be brave, the opposite of brave is not to be a coward, it's to conform. It's to be exactly the same as everybody else. Okay, and then we looked at how can I change? What do I need to know? I need to know what my mistakes and my weaknesses are. In other words, I need to face reality. I need to be able to be honest with myself. The reason why I went to speak to this specific teacher is to confront her with a problem, something that, and I was thinking something that she needs to change, and I was thinking of if I was being confronted with something like that, would I want to know if I did something wrong and I didn't know I was doing something wrong, would I want to know? And I asked my wife as well, and she said, yes, I would want to know. And I asked why. And she said, she doesn't want to know because she wants to change. I want to know because someone is speaking about me. And that's the problem. We often don't want to know our weaknesses because we want to change. We want to know because we want to know what people think about us. And here's the crux is to actually be in a place where you can hear bad things about yourself and not make it break you, but actually realize I'm gaining knowledge that could actually improve me. If I could face reality, I could actually change. Okay, so you have to be honest with yourself. Most of us, and that was one of the points, is most people, it's easier to believe a lie than to be convinced after I've believed the lie that it is a lie, which means many, if not most of the things I think about myself is actually not true. I'm believing lies. And it's easier for me to continue to believe a lie than for me to be corrected. So So the only way that I can really change is if I'm honest with myself and I realize what needs to change. And then ask people. You need something to bounce off of. We are blind to our own mistakes. We don't know what we don't know. Other people know a lot about us and can help us see areas, especially and not especially, only people that love you. Don't open yourselves up to people that don't love you. People don't love you, then their their opinions of you should not take a lot of weight in your life. But people that love you will tell you the truth because they love you. So don't take offense. Value what they say about you, and then read and get opinions. In other words, one way in which you can be really confronted and challenged to be more than what you are is to read, is to get other people's viewpoints of life, etc. Now, all lasting change is identity change. In the end, you must become what you hope to be, okay, if that makes sense. So, that was the next the big thing there was attitude, is to change our attitude and um, uh, embrace, become what we hope to be, or be what we hope to be. And then we looked at habits. I'm not gonna. I need to move on, but habits was about putting small things in our life that have a massive difference. And again, yeah, I use the little example. I started doing 10 minutes of exercise a day, slowly improved over time. And there I was able within a couple of months to run 4 times more than I've ever run. Um, and I'm done. I'm never going to do it again, but I accomplished that goal. And I shouldn't say never, but my point is just by doing small things every day, you can accomplish the things that you want to do. And it didn't take over my life. It was small things, and this is what the idea of habits were. Habits are the many small changes make a big difference. So to have good habits, to build in good habits into your life, even though you don't see the drastic effect in that day or even the next day or even the next day, over time, those small little changes of doing things that are good for you, whether it's healthy eating or exercise or reading. We gave a few most important: praying, being organized, or getting yourself organized, reading and learning, being healthy. These all things, just in small ways, adding them, making them a part of my daily, every single day life. These small, important things, healthy things, and these are just a few examples, build up um, uh, into huge differences in our lives. And the younger you can begin, the bigger that difference would be, obviously. Okay, and so that we just looked at 4 ways to make um, these to build these habits into your life. Okay, those 4 things will make it obvious. In other words, plan for it, make it a part of your life, be intentional. Okay, don't do these things when you feel like it. Make it a part of your day. Plan your every day with all these things that I mentioned, for example, as a part of your daily day. It's planned in there. Lord, too, is make it attractive. In other words, you need to want to do it. So you need to create an environment in which that will actually work. And there were just some examples that we can give. So, for example, if you want to eat healthy, make sure you don't have chocolates in your house. Okay, rather make it a reward for having gone a week accomplishing your goals. Your habits. Make it easy. In other words, start simple. Don't overdo it. When I initially started trying to exercise was last year, and I did it twice a week. And every time I had to drive home, and I promise you guys, I could hardly make it home. The first day I got home, I couldn't make it up the steps. I promise you, I lay down, I fell on the floor, and I was there for an hour. I didn't want to do it. After 2 months, I'm like, I don't want to do this. It's not fun. So make it easy, make it enjoyable, start small and rather increase over time, and then make it rewarding. And so the big thing there was keep track. One of the best ways to encourage yourself to continue to do something is to keep track of how you've done it. Just those little ticks. I did it today. Oh, I did 7 days in a row. This was very helpful. Okay. Good. Before we get to today, sorry, I wanted to give us that overview. It is important. All of these things is almost like building a system and a design for accomplishing the things that I'm dreaming about, the things that make me excited about life. And these things don't just happen. We need to be intentional. So that is very important. Okay, so now we go to the next topic, which is putting it into another gear. So before I get there, do you guys want to say anything or comment on anything or ask anything that we've done so far? Yes, sir. Good. Okay, cool. Let's then get to this topic. Gaining the world and losing your soul. So obviously, the point is that most of what we've said so far is about success, about accomplishing things, about whatever you've written down that you want to accomplish. And it could have been wonderful things, good things, um, things that makes your life what is it, meaningful to other people, to make your let's say part of that was to start businesses, and you could have the hope and desire to employ hundreds, thousands of people, changing people's lives. But in the end, so regardless of whether or not your dreams and your visions and your goals are good, you could gain the world and lose your soul. Like that is really a threat to all of us. So if we think of actually achieving our destiny in life, we need to think of it beyond just this life. Okay, so that's what it comes down to. I want to ask you guys this question. I'm going to give you a little bit of time. Let me give you about 5 minutes. I want you to think about this. Okay, really think about this. What is the most important question to ask in life? So there's a lot of questions like, who am I? That's an important question. And if you get that question wrong, like, who am I? Like, does it have an eternal, not eternal, does it have uh, 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 such a terrible effect that you will, how can I put this? I want you to think of the question that you think every single person in the world must ask and answer. Because if you get this question wrong, it's the worst question ever to get wrong. Like, this question, you must not get wrong. You must have the right answer to this specific question. Think a little bit. I want to see what questions we can come up with that you think is the most important question to ask and answer in your lifetime, but you also think other people must answer this question for themselves. Okay, think a bit about that. You can think of a few questions and then think of which one you think is the most important, or however you want to go about it. Yes, Tyler.
Can I send the message on a typed message as there's quite a bit of noise in the background here?
Yeah, that will be fine. Just don't send it yet. Okay. So let's not influence each other's answers. So type them out and then you send it when I ask, then you can send it through. Okay, I think we've got enough time now. We've given enough time. Who's willing to start with at least one of your questions you think is the most important question to ask? Okay, right. Okay, Lindy, your hand's up first. What do you say?
I would say if I knew that I would die tomorrow, would I be satisfied with who I am, or what would I scramble to achieve?
Oh, and so Lindy's question is, if I had to die tomorrow, would I be satisfied with what I've achieved, and or would I scramble to do a bit more? Did I get that right, Lindy? Roughly.
Yes.
Okay, cool. Kate, how about you?
I would ask, am I happy? Like, in not just am I happy physically, but in my personal relationship, with the school work I give in, with exercise I do, with things I say to people, and the way I do things.
Okay, am I happy? Okay, good. Am I happy with with what I'm doing? Do you mean am I what do you mean by happy? Let me just understand, like, what do you mean? Am I do I think it's good enough? Is that what you mean? That I'm doing my best, I'm satisfied? Is that what you mean? Or do you really mean joyful?
Actually both. Like, am I happy? Like, am I constantly living in afraidness, or am I constantly living in joy and satisfied with what I was doing?
Okay, cool. Thanks, Kate. How about Tyler? What's yours? Are you sending yours through? What is God's purpose for you, and why are you here? Okay, so Tyler says that she thinks the most important question to ask and answer is what was God's purpose for me? Why am I here? Okay, Tyler, thank you for yours. Pakama, you next.
Am I proud with my life so that the day I die, is it something I can be proud of to reflect on?
Okay, excellent. Yeah, so roughly the same. Did Danielle, did you give one? What was yours?
No, I didn't. Was I kind of?
If you want to, you don't have to, but if you want
Mine
to.
is personally like, do you accept Jesus Christ? Because I do feel like everyone has to answer that question in their life some time or another.
Okay. Thank you, Danielle. I don't want to comment on anyone's. I just want to make sure I understand everyone's. Hannah, do you, Hannah, Marku, who else? Aaron, Sharon, anyone else want? You don't have to. Just, I don't want to. Oh, Karina. Is there anyone else that want to? Cameron, Tennille?
I also had a similar question about what is my purpose?
What is my purpose? Okay.
Yeah.
Can I ask Hannah, do you think that if you get that question wrong, it will have detrimental consequences? Like, is that why you think it's the most important question?
Well, yeah, because I mean, God has plans for you, and you need to discover who you are so you can use all the gifts that He's given you to serve Him in a way. And also, yeah, discovering your purpose, the plan that He has for you for your time on earth. That's why I feel it's the most important question.
Okay, thank you. Good. Anyone else? Okay, let me move on. Okay, so mine is slightly different, but I think I might be able to convince you why I think it is the most important question that one would have to answer, because it does bring in most of what you guys are saying. The most important question I think that we have to answer in this life is, will there be a day of judgment? Okay, so I'll let that sink in a little bit. Will there be a day of judgment? What I mean by that, or what I think it means, is there going to be a day where I will have to give an account of my life? Okay, so it's a simple yes or no answer. Will there be a day in which I have to give an account for my life? Now, let's imagine the answer is no. Why is that still an important question? If the answer is no, like if I say, like, there's the question, I have to answer it for myself. It is an important question, because if the answer is no, then it doesn't matter how I spend my life. Okay. If there's not going to, if my answer is no, I'm not going to have to give a reckoning for my life to anyone. I'm not accountable to anyone. There won't be a day in which I'm going to have to stand and give and say, or give an account or be judged for how I live my life. Because if the answer is no, then I can live my life any way I please, whether I choose to be good or bad, whether I choose to accomplish all my goals or not. It doesn't matter. It really doesn't matter. What matters is that I enjoy today, I enjoy tomorrow, I live life to the fullest, whatever that would mean for you. It really doesn't, like, what you do doesn't matter at all. So do whatever you want. Okay. If there's no, if in the end there's no judgment, then that's the reality. It doesn't matter. Okay. Would you guys agree with that? If the answer is no.
I think I would.
Yeah, that's reasonable. Like if I die and that's it, if I die and that's it. Okay. So
I also agree. Can I just say something quickly?
yes.
Yesterday at church, our pastor also asked us if we are ready for that day.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's why now when you showed me the slide, I was like, what? No way.
So I
Um,
think. Oh, sorry.
yeah,
Go. No, no,
and
go.
he was like, it's okay if you're not ready yet, because like you still need to live according to life and like confess and like fix your mistakes and stuff, because he said that when he was asked the question a few years back, he also wasn't ready, but now he's like repented and everything and he's ready, you know.
Yeah. So let's see where this goes. Okay. So let's see. So, but that's really interesting. Clearly, someone's trying to speak to you, Hannah.
Yes.
I disagree.
Sorry.
I think I would disagree.
Disagree. So what do you mean you disagree?
I think even if you live life and there would be no judgment, it would your choices would still matter.
Say
Because
again, your what?
like if you lived life and there was no judgment, I think your choices would still matter.
Yes. So let me just be. Would your life be different if there was no day of judgment?
I think some aspects of it, but not all of them.
But there would be a difference in your life, no?
Yes.
And you think the world would be a different place
Yes.
because of some aspects of your life are different, then yeah. So it would be, so maybe we would disagree in terms of, but it is an important enough question to have an answer to.
Yes.
Okay. Okay. So I'm okay with disagreeing in terms of, obviously your choices would matter because, yeah, there's consequences to whatever you do. Yeah, I understand what you mean.
Yes.
But
Just because it would affect other people.
it will affect other people, but why does that matter?
Because I care about other people's well-being, so I wouldn't want to do stuff
Why
just because I can.
why do you care about their well-being?
Aha. Because I think because of the love your neighbor as you love yourself.
Why would you love your neighbor as you love yourself?
Because that's a depiction of God's love
Oh, but if there's no,
for others.
yeah, if there's no reckoning, like if there's no judgment in the end, or at least consequence for having done that or not done that,
Mhm.
then like it doesn't really matter if you do or not. So yes, maybe it will still be a better world if everyone loved one another. But what if I could create a world by making choices that's the best possible world only for me? Like, why wouldn't I go for that world? Understand
That
why?
makes sense.
So if there's no reckoning, then all I need to do is have the best life for me. And then maybe that means I would love people because it helps loving people, but I don't have to love everyone
That's
or
true.
benefit everyone, and I don't have to pay any price that I don't want to. No. So
That makes sense. I changed my mind.
so, but it is a big thing. Like I do think it's a big thing, but I don't disagree with you. You would still obviously have consequences to your actions. Okay.
Yes.
Cool. If the answer is yes, though, like if the answer is, and again, guys, just understand why I'm putting this question, what is my destiny? Because you have to, if I'm talking about my destiny, it means sometime in the future, like what lies in the future for me? If this life was all we had to deal with, in other words, after I die, it doesn't matter how I lived. Okay. In other words, there's no day of judgment. Then obviously my life would look different than if I had to live a life and give an account for it at the end of it. Does that make sense? Why this is so important? Okay. If my destiny at the end of this life actually depends on this life, then obviously if I'm going to talk about my destiny, I can't just think of everything I want to accomplish in this life, because there's something beyond this life. Well, the question is there or is there not? And if there is, does it matter how I live this life? In other words, will there be a day of reckoning? I really hope, I would love it if you guys aren't muted, so you're welcome to be muted, but really don't feel bad being unmuted, because then at least I know you guys. Okay, and maybe that won't work with.
That's a very good thing. Like what Sis says, it makes so much sense to me. Like it actually, not like it boggles like my mind. Like it's so good actually.
Okay, so we get why this is an important question. Okay, so my destiny is not just about what I'm going to accomplish in this life, but after this life. And if that's true, that there's something beyond this life, then obviously what I do in this life, or the question is, does what I do in this life affect my destiny at the end of this life? The answer is no, then, well, it doesn't really matter how I live this life, just live anywhere I please. But if it does, then obviously I need to ask a few questions. And these are the few questions I need to ask. First, who will be the judge? Like, okay, so if there is going to be a day of reckoning, who am I going to give an account to? Okay, like, because if there's going to be a judge, I better figure out, like, okay, what do you want from me? Like, how are you going to, like, what will be judged? In other words, when you look at my life, what are you going to look at? What's going to be important in that day? Okay, and not just what's going to be important about what I did or how I did it, or about my heart or my actions or my beliefs, all those things, but what will it be judged against? In other words, when you judge, when there is a judgment, there's obviously a standard. Like there's obviously something that is being compared to something else. So for example, if you're in court, you're there because you broke the law. Okay, you're being judged against the law. So at the end of my life, what is it that I'm going to be judged against? If the answer is yes, there will be a day of reckoning. Well, what am I going to give an account of in terms of my life, and what should it reach? What's the standard? Where should it be aiming towards? And then what is the consequences? Like, okay, cool, I'm going to be judged, there's going to be a standard, but okay, what if I miss it? What if I make it? Like, what is the, like, why is that important? Again, if there's no consequences, it was all just good advice. Okay, this would be the best life, but if there's no consequences, then, well, it still doesn't matter. Okay, because there's no consequence. It's just like, okay, cool, here's your star. But are there actually consequences? And then how will I be found? Like if and I think someone did mention that, like if I had to give an account of my life now, I think it was, who was it? Was it you, Lindy? That said, would I scramble
Yes.
to fix some stuff? Okay. The only difference that most of you said, because many of you did have this idea in, like, am I happy with my life? Am I content? How would I feel about? Am I satisfied? If you look at your questions, notice who you say the judge is. You were all about, okay, am I happy with my life? Am I content? Okay, so, okay, that's the question. Who is going to be the judge? If I'm going to be the judge, then okay, well, then I suppose everyone will succeed, because why would you not? If you're just going to have to judge yourself, but maybe that's not the answer. And the final question is, okay, how can I actually know the answer to these questions? Like, okay, these are valid questions. They're very important questions. Once you have this first question, will I have to give an account for my life? The next question is, okay, who will be the judge? What will he judge? What will I be judged against? What will be the consequences? How will I be found? Will the judge be satisfied with me? And then the obvious question is, well, how can I know these things? Like, where would I go to get these answers? Okay, so obviously, we're trying to answer these questions from the perspective of we said from the beginning and all of you agreed, we believe that we were all created. Okay, we don't believe that we just came into existence by random mutation over a long period of time. Maybe there's some of you now that think that, but we did say, all of us believe that there's a mind behind the universe, that I was created, that God created me. So obviously, if I wanted to know these answers, it has to be revealed to us by the Creator. Somehow the Creator who made me must have revealed these answers for me. If this is really such an important question, like, will there be a day of reckoning? It's not going to be about how I feel about it, like whether or not I think there's going to be a day. It's whether or not the Creator says there's going to be a day, or revealed that there's going to be a day in which he's going to have a reckoning on all of his creatures. Okay, so that's important. So what I want to encourage you at this point, do not trust my answers from here on out. Okay, I'm going to give you the answers that I discovered. Okay, and I'm going to try and prove them to you, but I don't have enough time to answer them all. But I am not going to stand in your shoes when you're going to give your day of reckoning. That's the important thing. Your parents aren't, your pastor or your priest, or like, no one is going to stand in your place to give on the day of reckoning. You are going to give a reckoning for your own life. So don't trust my answers. Have these answers answered for yourself and have confidence that they are true. And because, again, you are going to have to account for your own life. This is your responsibility. This is your life. Okay. So I'm going to share with you the thoughts that I've put together on the topic. And I think it might challenge some things that you believe. Great. Because that will take you on a journey to find these answers for yourself and be convinced for yourself. And by that, I don't mean don't go to people that you can trust for answers, inquire from them, ask them. But if they get it wrong, or if I get it wrong, you are still going to pay the price. So make sure that you take responsibility for these questions. Is that okay? Do you guys get what I'm saying? So I'm not trying to indoctrinate you with my thoughts. I'm trying to expose you to some very hard questions and challenging answers. Okay. You're very quiet.
Yes,
Good.
sir.
Okay, so this topic, the title for this topic comes from something that Jesus said. Now, you guys will recall, all things were created by him and for him. Okay, so if there's anyone that knows the answer to this, it is Jesus Christ. And so he said, what does it profit a man if he shall gain the whole world and lose his soul? Okay, so we are really concerned with this question. We want to be successful in our lives. I want each and every one of you to be successful. But that does not mean gaining the world and losing your soul, because that's the definition of being unsuccessful, is achieving everything that you can possibly achieve in this life, and in the next life, your soul is lost. Because he says, for what shall a man give in exchange for his soul? So at the end of your life, if you have gained every opportunity, all the money you could imagine, you have accomplished everything in your dreams, all your dreams, you have the family that you desired, you have the house, the car, the career, the success in your sport, if that's in the vision. Which of those things could you exchange for your eternal soul? And then he says this, for the Son of Man shall come in the glory of his Father with his angels, and then he shall reward every man according to his works. Okay, so Jesus, the one who created all things and for whom all things were created, is very clear here. And he's talking about this topic that we're talking about, achieving success. He says, it doesn't matter what success you're going to achieve. If you lose your soul in the end, it's going to mean nothing. Because, why? Because the Son of Man will come in the glory of his Father and his angels, and he shall reward every man according to his works. So, just based on that verse, who will be the judge? I need to go back.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah, the Son of Man. Now, I can give you, and again, I don't have the time to go into all those verses. You just write it down and see if you can confirm that by yourself from scripture, or wherever you're going to go to confirm these. But obviously, scripture would be the best place. Who will be the judge? Jesus Christ, the Son of Man. Okay. Now, what Jesus does, because it's so difficult for us to actually picture that day. Okay. To actually understand what will happen in a day where God is going to judge billions of people. What Jesus does is he tells parables to illustrate the day of judgment. So parable is like a little story, and from that story, Jesus then helps us to understand what that day is going to be like. Now, Jesus tells about 38 parables in all of the scriptures. There's about 38. More than half of his parables are about the day of judgment. Okay, that's crazy. He speaks 3 times more of judgment than he does about being saved. Like, this is really an important topic for Jesus. And it really makes sense why. And the way I like to think about it is when if I am gaining weight, so I'm not very healthy, you know what I don't do? I don't get on a scale, because I know it's gonna tell me, listen, you're gaining weight. Or I don't take it, like you guys are not close to there, but I have to start taking my blood pressure. Age 40, can you believe it? I have to start taking my blood pressure. Okay. If I know I've been eating unhealthily, I don't want to take my blood pressure because I know I'm not going to like what it says. Like when you do something, when you know, like you're not going to do well in the test, you don't want to take the test. Isn't that like, just think of a test. Yeah, that's actually a good example. If you know you're not going to do well, you don't want to take the test because you know the test is going to tell the truth and you don't want to hear the truth. Okay. But if I don't get on the scale, what is going to end up happening? I'm going to continue in my bad habits until I'm so overweight that my health is completely compromised, or my blood pressure is so bad, it continues to be bad, my internal organs are suffering because of it. Or I don't want to take the test until it gets to the exam, and eventually it's too late and I can't. So do you see, if by avoiding the idea of judgment, by avoiding an opportunity to think about judgment, I am delaying an opportunity to change. I hope that makes sense. When I live with the knowledge that there is a day of reckoning, and I bring that day of reckoning into the present. In other words, I apply what will happen on that day on me today. In other words, I take my weight today and make a decision to respond to what I see today. I can make a difference tomorrow that will start changing the future. I hope that makes sense. So it's not fun, it's not pleasant, it's not nice to think about that. But if I don't, it will be too late when it eventually comes. So Jesus obviously understands that. He brings that picture of the last day of judgment so often into the present reality so that we can live with the knowledge that I am going to have to give an account for my life. Okay, that's why it's so important for Jesus. I hope that makes sense. Okay, now in the different parables that Jesus tells, his parables about the judgment fall in these three categories. There's parables of reward and reckoning, for example. So, for example, one of his parables is he says there's a rich king, or not a king, a lord that goes away, and he takes his wealth and he distributes it to his servants. One servant got 10 talents of gold. Now, a talent is 34 kilograms. 10 talents of gold is an enormous quantity of money. He gives the one 10 or 5, the other one 2, and one gets 1. And then after a long time, he comes back and he reckons with them. He wants to know, what have you done with what I've given you? And then the one with 5 got 5 more. The one with 2 got 2 more. The one with 1 hid that one that he got and didn't get any extra. And because he didn't improve on what was given him, he was rejected. He was cast out. And so there's this picture of a day in which God will come and give a reward and a reckoning for what he's given you and what you have done with it. There is other parables that's about inviting in or casting out. So, for example, there's a marriage feast, and some people are ready for this marriage feast when he comes to invite them. Others are not. And so those that are ready, he invites in. Those that are not, that come late, that come unprepared, that come with the wrong clothes, he casts them out. So there's that picture of inviting in or casting out. There's others about keeping the good but casting away or burning the bad. So, for example, there's one where he says the kingdom of God is like a fisher that casts his net. He brings in a whole lot, but then he goes through each and every one, and he keeps the good and he casts away the bad. Or he looks at a vineyard, and some of the branches carry good fruit, some have no fruit. So he cuts away those that have no fruit, and they get cast into a furnace of fire. So these are some imagery that he makes, and he is a lot. I think there's in total about 16 or 17 of these parables that fall into these categories. Okay, so one of the questions, so obviously we know who will be the judge, okay, at least if you're going to believe the Bible, and maybe you have a different conviction, you need to answer this for yourself from those convictions. I can only say what I believe to be true. And the Bible is clear that the Son of Man, who's Jesus Christ, he will be the judge. The next question that we need to ask is, what will he judge? Okay, what do you guys think? Which of these do you think will be judged in the end?
Our heart.
Our hearts? Oh, look, I hope spelling won't be judged, because
My
that's not how you
words.
spell heart, by the way. Yeah. What do you say?
My words.
Your words,
My beliefs.
beliefs. Do you think all of these maybe will be?
Yeah.
Okay.
My eyes just went to the one that drew my attention the most first.
The word. Yeah. Okay, we'll go through a few verses. The most common thing that most people believe is that God will judge your heart. I challenge you to find that verse. Okay. And the problem is most people think they have a good heart. And so they hope God will judge their heart because they think they have a good heart. But there's no verse in the Bible that says God will judge your heart. God will expose your heart, yes. That verse is there. But let me just take you to some of the things that the Bible says, what will be judged in that day. Okay. We saw this first verse where he says the Son of Man will come in his glory with all his holy angels with him, and he shall reward every man according to his works. Okay. Romans 2 verse 6, he will render to every man according to his deeds. 2 Corinthians 5 verse 10, we will all appear before the judgment seat of Christ, that everyone may receive the things done in his body according to that he has done, whether they be good or bad. Revelations 20 verse 12, I saw the dead, small and great, stand before God. The books were opened. Another book was opened, which is the book of life. And the dead were judged out of those things written in the books according to their works. So this is hard, especially for most Christians. I think in general we misunderstand it, but it's very clear that I will give an account to God for the things that I do, for my works, for my deeds, for what I've done in this body. Okay. So again, guys, I'm challenging you, go and read for yourself. Don't just take my word for it. Go and read. I've got a lot of verses here for yourself, but go and look. What does the Bible say? What will God judge in that day? And I only looked at the New Testament. The Old Testament also has a lot of verses for this, but I looked at. So definitely, I'm going to judge. God is going to reward people according to their deeds, whether they are good or bad. So it's not just going to reward the good works, but the good and the bad. I saw the dead, small and great. They were judged out of those things written in the books according to their works. After this verse 13 then says that most of these people are getting thrown into the lake of fire. Okay, so it's not just their good works, good and bad works. Okay. The other one is my words. This is something that Jesus says. He says that I say to you that every idle word that men speak, they shall give an account of in the day of judgment. For by your words thou shalt be justified, and by thy words thou shalt be condemned. This is super scary. Okay. And again, we don't like to think about that day of judgment, but it's so necessary so that we can apply it in our day, because my eternal destiny is affected by the things that come out of my mouth. Okay, so I can't just continue to ignore something like this, continue to speak the way I think I can speak, and think that it will not have an effect in my for eternity. Why? Because I will give an account of every idle word that I speak. This word idle means meaningless. Oh, sorry, means like it's a word that I speak. I didn't really mean it. Like I just said it. Like it just came rolling out. But the Bible says that the problem with the tongue is the tongue cannot be tamed. You can't tame your tongue. You can tame animals. You can steer a large ship with a small rudder, but your tongue is like a small flame that can set the whole body on fire, because so it can't be tamed. Whatever is in your heart will come out on your tongue. Okay, whether it is in gossip or in whatever. So again, you can see why this type of thing is important to consider when we think about our destiny. Our words matter, how we speak, because I'll give an account for my words. And obviously, he says, by your words you shall be justified. By your words you shall be condemned. Another thing is my secrets. Romans 2 verse 16. In the day when God shall judge the secrets of men by Jesus Christ according to my gospel. Okay, so it's not just the works that I do that everyone can see, the good or bad that I do against other people that they know of. It's even the things that I keep secret. Okay, it's obviously not secret to my Creator. Okay, of how I treat lowly people. I'm going to give a count of. So one of the parables that Jesus tells, it's not really a parable. He creates the image. He's talking about that very last day when he shall come in his glory, all his holy angels with him. Then he shall sit on the throne of his glory. You see again, it's the Son of Man. He comes with his angels. He sits on the throne of his glory. And before him will be gathered all the nations, and he will separate them one from another as a shepherd divides his sheep from goats. It's the nations are before him, and he separates people into two groups, one the sheep, the other one the goats. And then you can go and read this in Matthew 20:25. He says to the sheep on his right, he says to them, I was hungry and you gave me food, I was thirsty, you gave me drink, I was sick, you came to visit me, I was in prison, you came to me, I was naked, you clothed me. There's all these things that he said, you've done it for me. And they like, and he welcomes them into his eternal kingdom. And then they're like, but when did we see you? Like, we don't remember that. And he says, whenever you did it to the least of these my brethren, that's this verse 40. Inasmuch as you've done it to the least of these my brethren, you had done it unto me. So the way that we treat lowly people, people that are hungry and thirsty and naked and lonely and sick and vulnerable, the way we treat the lowly is the way we treat our Maker, because all men are made in the image of God. Okay, and how we treat them is going to be judged, and we are so like all of us, we tend to be nice and kind to people that are well off and good, but we are very cruel and unkind to people of lower stature in life. Okay, and what Jesus is saying is, when you do that to the least of these, you're doing it to me. Then on the other side, when he now looks at the goats, he says to them, I was hungry, you didn't feed me. I was naked, you didn't clothe me. He says the same things, but they never did it. And they also said, but when didn't we do it? When did we see you like this and we didn't do it? He said, when you didn't do it for the least of these, you didn't do it to me. And he shall say to them, go away into everlasting punishment, but the righteous into eternal life. So you can see here, guys, that the way I treat people has an eternal effect. However, you gotta fix that. We're gonna talk about that in term 4. Okay, well, how do we deal with this? Because this is a problem. Okay, but the point I want to make is in all of this so far, I'm going to get to the last one now. My deeds, my actions, the things that I do in this life matter, because it's going to be judged. My words matter because I'll give an account for it. My secrets matter. Okay, God will judge men according to their secrets. How I treat people matter. And here's the last one. My fruitfulness matters. You remember that parable I told you about, where God gives, where he tells the parable of the Lord that gives his gifts to the treasures of his kingdom to his servants. He expects them to go out and be profitable with that. He says to the one that had increased his wealth, he says, well done, you are a good and a faithful servant. You've been faithful over a few things. I will make you a ruler over many things. Enter into the joy of your Lord. Okay, to the other one who didn't do anything, like he has gifts, maybe not a lot, but he had gifts, and he had the opportunity to use those gifts and improve those gifts. He says, you are wicked and slothful. It means you're evil. If you do not, and that's what someone did say as well, is have I done what God's will was for my life? If you don't do that, in God's eyes, you're wicked and you're lazy. And he says to that unprofitable servant, I'll cast you into outer darkness, where there's weeping and gnashing of teeth. God made you for a purpose and intends you to live out that purpose, because that's why he made you. He's got an intention with your life. So obviously, you're going to give an account of whether or not that which God has put in your life, you are applying. Okay. And then there's another example where he talks about fruitfulness. He says, I'm the vine, you are the branches. Every branch in me that bears not fruit gets taken away. He that abides in me and brings forth will bring forth much fruit. Without me you can do nothing, but if a man abides not in me, he's cast forth as a branch, he withers, and men gathers them up and cast them into the fire, and they are burnt. Okay, another parable where you can clearly see the serious effects of not being fruitful, that which God has given you, not bearing fruit with that. Now, the reason why this is so important is because if we are going to start our definition of success with becoming everything that God has intended us to be, then obviously this is important. It is important. It is my moral duty to become everything, to be successful. I have to be successful. It is my duty to God to be successful. And it's not a burden. It is the greatest joy. Like, look at in the end, this is what is my ultimate reward, is I get to become everything that God has made me to be. And not just have I taken the little bit that he's given me and doubled it in this life. Now he says, I will make you a ruler over many things. Imagine that which God had given you in this life, doesn't matter how much it is. One of the parables that Jesus tells is of a rich man and Lazarus. Lazarus has nothing. He's absolutely nothing. He lies in his misery and in his with sores. He has absolutely nothing. The only thing he has in his life is faith. Like, he really has nothing. He doesn't accomplish anything in life. And yet, at the end, he's taken up into glory, and he's comforted for eternity. The rich man is like, he's eating tremendously well, but Lazarus is at his doorstep. He doesn't care for Lazarus. He doesn't give him food. He doesn't take pity on him. And so here's now a good example of someone that had a lowly person right on his doorstep and didn't take pity on him, didn't show him mercy. So in the end, he doesn't get shown mercy because he didn't show mercy in his life. Okay, even though he had more than enough to be able to do so. So here is a good example for, it's not about achieving what other people achieve. It's got nothing to do about that. The person that got 10 and the person that got 5, I can't remember if it was 10 and 5 or 5 and 2, both of them doubled what they had. So the one in the end had 10 and the other one had, let's say, 4. They got the same reward in the end. Okay, so in other words, it wasn't that they both that the one did so much more, so they're going to be rewarded so much more. No, with what they had, the little that they had, they were successful. And that's the important point here. I have a responsibility to be successful with that which God has given me. I don't have to accomplish everything Mother Teresa did. Okay, maybe I can do more, maybe I won't do, or have anything to do with that, because God has his purpose with that person and God has a purpose with my life. The point is, I have to be responsible and over the few things that I have been given. I need to be successful over that. And by success, we don't mean anything other than becoming exactly what God intended me to be. Okay, so don't compare yourself with other people. Okay, that's not the point. No one will judge your success but God. So the question is, what will be the standard? What will I be judged again? And the unfortunate thing in terms of what you guys shared in the beginning is most of the important questions that you guys gave was, am I happy with what I achieved? Or am I content? I can't remember, I should have written it down. But once I make myself the standard, myself the judge, then I use my own standards. Okay. And that's obviously not what you're going to be judged against. That's not what's going to be weighed up against. Whether or not you are happy, it's got nothing to do with it. It's whether or not God is pleased. And that's now important thing. So what will be the standard? What will God use on that day to judge? I want to read that Revelations 20 verse 12 again. I saw the dead, small and great, stand before God, and the books were opened. And another book was opened, which is the book of life. And the dead were judged out of those things that were written in the books according to their works. So notice that there's these books being opened. And the dead, in other words, everyone that stands before that throne being judged, are judged according to what is written in those books. So in the one book is all your life. It's written down. Everything. in your life. And another book is the books. There's the books, see the books, and another book, which is the book of life. So this books, the Greek word is biblia. So I don't know. I figure it's the Bible that God opens at that point and judges, because that is what he's revealed about himself. We can't know anything beyond what God has revealed to us about his will and about his ways. So he's going to judge according to the Bible. Now, in the end, we want to ask these questions. What is right and wrong? So in other words, if that is the standard, so we have to get to that question, and that's going to be our next term. We're going to dig deep into this. What is right and wrong? What is good and evil? What is true and false? How can I know that? How can my life be aligned according to what is right and wrong, good and evil, true and false? Okay, so that's going to be for next term. For now, these are now all the questions. I'm just going through that questions. If there is a day of judgment, I need to know who's the judge. I need to know what is he going to judge. I need to know according to what standard he's going to judge. I need to know, I want to know what are the consequences. Like, does it actually matter? Because even if that's all true, again, if there's no consequences, okay, I'll take my chances. Okay, what are the consequences? Again, I don't want to prescribe anything. You guys can go and look into that for yourself, and no doubt some of you already have thoughts about it, but make sure you have your own, not your own thoughts. Make sure that what you know about it is true. It's truly what God has revealed. The only things I would say about it is that those consequences are unimaginable. Okay, the moment you talk about everlasting or never ending, you can't imagine it. It's far beyond our comprehension can ever go. So whether good or bad, it is in an infinite plane. It is much like it's infinitely greater than whatever you can imagine. Whether it is good or bad, it's infinitely worse than you can imagine. So that's the only thing I can say about the consequences, which means if there are consequences, which no doubt there must be, otherwise, again, it doesn't matter. It is unimaginable, which means that it makes this question and getting the answer to these questions infinitely great. Okay, and emphasizes why this was so important for Jesus, because it's not inconsequential. It's not inconsequential. The reward as well as the reckoning is phenomenally great. And I cannot, in good conscience, do a topic on what is my destiny without laying serious, heavy responsibility on you of understanding the unimaginably everlasting, infinitely great consequences that comes from this life, that hopefully 70 years you're going to spend here, and what's going to happen to that. Now, obviously the question which Hannah said, where am I going? Like, how am I going to fare on that day? That's a question you need to answer for yourself, and I don't want to answer on your behalf. I do want to encourage you, though, that even though this is a very, very hard and difficult thing, the one thing in the Christian message and in the gospel is there's good news in the gospel. And that is what I'm hoping in the fourth term, we really get to unpack and understand and value of, even though this is such a great and weighty responsibility, I don't want to lift that responsibility and weight of this knowledge too much today by saying, but you know what, it's okay, blah, 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 blah. Okay, there's good news in all of this, and I think most of you know the good news, but that good news doesn't lift any of the seriousness and the weightiness and the responsibility that lies on us as creatures of an infinitely great, good, and holy God that should live lives that accomplishes his purposes and his ways and we will give an account, all of us. Okay. There's a picture of Scrooge. I don't know, do you know the story of what's it, The Night Before Christmas? Yeah, just to remind you of that verse. What does it profit a man to gain the whole world but to lose his soul? What will you give in exchange for your soul? No matter how rich you are, whatever you accomplish in this life, however successful you are in your career, in the end, the question is, what about your soul? Because it's infinitely more worth than anything you can achieve in this life. And that matters. That's important. Okay. Guys, I know I didn't stop to give you an opportunity to ask questions. That was maybe a mistake, but are there any questions or comments that you guys maybe have? You're more than welcome. If you want to stay behind a little bit and talk about it, you're also welcome. But this then concludes our discussion on what is my destiny.
Thank you, sir.
It's a pleasure. No questions? Okay, I don't even know who's still there. Okay, most of you. Thanks, Marku. Pleasure, Lindy. Thank you.
This is it.
That's it. Unless you have questions.
No. Thank you, sir. Very
Good,
nice.
Danielle.
Thank you. Bye.
Thanks.
Thank
Hannah,
you, sir.
thanks, Sharon.
I actually do have a question, which is where can I find the recording for this session?
Okay, cool. I'll send it to you once it comes through to me.
Thank you.
Okay, Lindy.
So I have a question,
Yes.
but maybe once the recording has stopped.
Okay. Let me stop it. Does anyone else have a question?